Hello and welcome to Screencast 21 for the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland Introduction to Vectorworks. We're moving on now. We've passed drawing abstract 2D shapes, and we're going to now move on to something a little bit different, just to break up the sequence. We're now going to look at an actual drawing that we use in our day-to-day or show-to-show work. So it's not just abstract shapes, it's about actual things, actual real things in a real space. But it was really important to go through the last 20 screencasts getting an idea of how Vectorworks work so that we can then start to use it as a useful tool. So the first thing I need you to do is to get the Chandler, which is our studio venue, is to get our Chandler Studio Vectorworks file. You will all have access to Teams, so if you go to Teams, I will make sure that you have access to the RCS Vectorworks team, which is here. You won't have a great big long list like this, but the RCS Vectorworks team, I will make sure you're all invited to it. There is general information here. There's a new, please note, there's a new Athenaeum Vectorworks file uploaded from 2023. We did a lot of work on the Athenaeum on the main stage. There's links to online events and another kind of another update to the venues. The venues are constantly being tweaked. We are getting more and more detail in the venues, so make sure you keep an eye on the team. Also within the team, there are RCS lighting YouTube videos. Christoph's lighting specific. This YouTube channel, a link to that, Vectorworks University. And under files, you will see there are class resources. There's some exercises if you want to go and do some more work, but there's also venue files. And in the venue files, these are the most up to date. So there's the Opera School file, the main stage, the Athenaeum, the studio that we're looking at just now, and a couple of rehearsal rooms. We do have more, I just haven't checked them and uploaded them yet. So where it says Chandler, go to download and download the Chandler file, and it will open like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a little look at the Chandler file, and using the basic concepts that we've covered before, we're going to note a few things. So in the design layers here, so classes first, again, I'm not going to cover classes because it gets confusing. We're just going to look at layers at the moment. Design layers. There are three channels, four I suppose, three channels and a little tick. The little tick here is the active layer. So at the moment it's permanent seating. The permanent seating is the seating here at the back of the theatre, which can't be pushed away. The whole seating bank can be retracted back, but there's always this seating bank here. It can't go any further away than the seating underneath this seating bank here. So this is permanent seating, so that's the active layer at the moment. If I drew something on the plan just now, so say I chose a rectangle, the mouse is a bit skittish, and I drew a square, I would be drawing it on the permanent seating, which is probably not where I want to draw it. Of course, I can change the permanent seating layer there to something like the floor, but it would be easier if I ticked on floor there and then drew my rectangle, so I was drawing it on the floor in one step rather than drawing it and then having to move it, because if you're drawing lots of things you might forget to move it, and then you switch off your design, the layer for your set design, and it's still there because it's on the permanent seating layer rather than the set design layer. So try and get into the habit of noting which of the layers is active. It's the one with the little tick on it is the active layer. There's an I which is visible, an X which is invisible, and a grey column here. So I can make these catwalks. I'd say I don't want to see the catwalks when I'm doing my design, because they're I want to draw and not get confused by them. I can switch the catwalks and the tab track and say the catwalk structure and LX bars, I can switch them all off by clicking the little X here, so that I've only got the things that I kind of really need. That would be a good example, is if I'd stupidly drawn this in a layer and then I switched it off and I wasn't paying attention, then it might not make sense. These only work if the objects within the objects, when they are drawn, are placed in the correct layer. That thing there is placed in the LX layer, and incidentally it's a hanging position as well, so that the lights understand that they snap to it. One thing to watch out for is that the little tick arrow is always visible. So even though I've got the little X there next to catwalks, because it's the active layer, it is visible. So just be careful about that. If you don't understand why you can't switch the floor layer off, and just check that it's not the visible layer. Other thing to note is the show, snap, modify others, this layer options. So what this is saying at the moment is it's show me the active layer, allow me to snap to other layers. So we saw that that's the permanent seating bank. So see, I put my mouse over it and I've got snap. Modify other layers, so I can take the permanent seating bank and move it about. Don't do that. And so show, snap, and modify others. This has a little cascading drop down thing here, so I can, that's maximum control. That allows me to see everything, modify everything, change everything, irrelevant of which is the active layer. If I put on show snap others, it means I can see other layers apart from the active one there, but this time I can't modify. I've switched off modify. I can show others, which means the only thing that changed there between the snap and show is that this one I can still snap. I can still take a line off that one if I want. And as we decrease the editability, there's no snaps off that anymore. And then we kind of go down again, we grey others, so I only see the active layer as it would normally be, and everything else is greyed, but I can still snap to it. Grey others, I can't snap to them, and active only shows me the things which are on the active layer. So if I was checking, if I was going through my drawing and checking, permanent seating should only have the permanent seating, dimmer outlets there, LX hanging positions, the catwalk structure, the catwalks themselves, outside tab track, the side galleries, the seating which is retractable, the walls, row double A when the seating level's folded away, focus zones for LX, and the floor. So I would say probably a good one to sit on is show snap others, so that you can't accidentally edit anything that's not in your layer that you're working on. If I'm working on the floor layer, I can't drag the windows out or drag the permanent seating out of alignment. So it's quite a good safe option there. Note as well, just before we go on to the next screencast, that the sheet layers here, so that's our layers, and our sheet layers here, there are several are already made up, so that if I put a little tick on them, I'll pop into that layer. And because I've drawn something in the design layer, then it's pulled it through into the sheet layer. So I've got a 1 to 25 at A1, so these are all scaled. 1 to 25 at A0, section, 1 to 50 at A3, and then 1 to 50 section, and a kind of a slice through. It's more of to give people an idea of isometric kind of drawing. If I wanted, so this is a 1 to 50 A3, so A3 is quite easy for us to print out. If I wanted to send this to somebody, or if I was a designer and I wanted to design it but not using the seating bank, have the seating bank retracted, you would not believe the amount of times I get an email saying, could you send me a PDF of the chandler with the seating bank retracted? I am showing you, well, I've shown people for years, but I'm showing you now how to do that yourself, so you don't have to ask other people to do it for you. The things that are visible in the viewport there are controlled in the object info palette under layers and classes here, layers and classes. So this viewport here, nothing to do with the layers here, that was just for us working. In the 1 to 50 A3, if I make sure the viewport is highlighted and I go to layers and I don't want to see the seating bank, I can switch off there, OK, and we've now got ourselves a 1 to 50 A3 file, export, PDF, done. It's that simple. If I wanted to go to the section here and I wanted to see a section, and note that the section has got a kind of a red banding around it. It just means that it needs updated. So there's a little update button. If you press update, it'll take a second and it will finish off what it's doing and it'll update. You'll see what I mean in a second. I don't want to see my section. I'm going to send myself, or I'm going to be designing with the seating bank in its retracted or its in position. So again, highlight the viewport, go to layers, switch off the seating bank, don't want to see it, OK. There's still the red bounding box. It's because there's 3D objects in this section. And update. So anytime you see the bounding box there, it just needs to be updated in the object info palette. And there we go. There's the seating bank retracted, and I can now place my objects, which I would do back in the design layer again. So back to the floor. These objects here are two acting blocks. Say we're not doing, I haven't gone into 3D yet, but I'm just going to extrude them just now and make them into actual things. So you can see their blocks there. That was using the flyover tool. I'm going to go back to top plan. If I go back to my sheet layer and I go back to my sections sheet layer, something's changed within the viewport. It won't do it automatically because it's not a wireframe. I update it again and we should see there's the two blocks that I put on the stage in the section. So what I want you to do is to go to download the Chandler and then send me the two PDFs. I'm trying to find where I wrote down. Send me the two PDFs, one of the 1 to 50 plan with the seating bank retracted, and the 1 to 50 A3 section with the seating bank retracted. That's all you need to do. That's task 3. Send me those two A3 PDFs. So you'll need to do those two things that I just showed you, and then from each sheet layer, file, export, PDF. So this one should just be the two PDFs. I don't need to see the Vectorworks file for this because it's my drawing anyway. Hope that makes sense. Let's get that relationship between the world here, the design layer world, is doesn't matter what we do in here, doesn't matter what we have visible here, absolutely irrelevant. It's this is just to allow us to switch things on and off as we work, as we draw, as we assign things to separate layers. It has no bearing at all on the 1 to 50 A3 what I see in this layer here. If I want to see the catwalks or the LX catwalk structure and catwalks, is controlled within the layers and classes, if we use them, the layers selection of the viewport. I decide what I want to see in the viewport, which is placed on a sheet layer, and then I export the PDF from that. That relationship between those three things is critical, and if you just take a moment to just go through that a couple of times, it will save people sending me emails saying, can I get a copy of the Chandler with the seating bank retracted, which I'm sure you understand is super easy to do if you just take a moment just to follow this through. And if you didn't follow it, go back to the start and do it again. And if you really still don't follow it, get in touch with me. But the task here is to send me those PDFs. And once we've done that, we're going to move on into the 3D world in the next screencast. So don't skip this one. This is critical because it's going to get more complicated from now on, which is super exciting. And I'll see you in the next screencast.